guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today we're going to talk about my most carried knives for, kind of April, May 2018. This is almost the end of June, so I'm a little behind on this video. But before I get into my discussion, I want to ask you guys this question, especially for those of you who are collectors, but even those who just have a couple of knives. I bet you do this. One of the things that happens to me pretty frequently is I'll pick up a knife that I haven't carried in a while, and I'll put it in my pocket and carry it for a day or two and think, man, why did I stop carrying this? It is such a great knife, and I'm kind of just reminded of that. So I'd love to hear the example of that for you down below. Or maybe it's a knife that you bought a second time. Maybe you've had, you had this knife and you sold it or traded it or lost it, and you were like, you know what, I've got lots of knives, I can live without it. And then at some point you had an opportunity to get it again and thought, man, I was really missing out. Why did I not appreciate this knife before? So that's my question for you to get us started. I am going to get into the knives that have been in my pocket the most over the last couple of months. And that's just because I've tried repeatedly to make sort of a top 10 knives video or a top 5 favorites. And I never really, my top 10, my top 5 kind of rotate. And so instead of doing that, I've adopted this format where every couple of months or so, I kind of tell you what I've been favoring, okay, what I've been loving the most recently. And then, in a couple more months, I'll make another one because my EDC rotation will have changed and adjusted a little bit. So let's go ahead and get started. One of the knives that is often in these most carried videos is definitely my Curtis F3. This is a fantastic knife. This knife just connects with me on so many levels. I really, really love it. I love the blade grind. I love the feel in hand. I love the construction. I love the look of this knife. There's so many things that I just find really, really appealing. And so rarely does, more than a couple of days go by that I don't at least carry this a little bit. Maybe I just drop it in my pocket to go to the store one time in the evening or something, but rarely does much time go by that I don't carry my Curtis F3 a little bit. And if you're one of those guys who would like to find a good custom knife, I think this is a great option for sort of that first foray, because generally they can be found for a reasonable price, and because they're sort of it's what I call a production custom. It's where this maker is making the same thing over and over again. You kind of know, or at least have a pretty good idea of what you're getting. Let's pull out a different knife now. I've got some budget offerings, so let's focus on the budget offerings for a few minutes before we get into sort of the general stuff. But this is the Bestech Paladin, and this was sent to me for review by Bestech, and instead of reviewing it and passing it along, I decided to keep it. So I emailed them and said, hey, I'll pay you for this knife. It's too good not to keep. If that's okay with you. And they said, yeah, of course, it's fine. This knife's been around a while, and we don't have anyone else to send it to. So I was able to add this to my collection because it is so, so great. I think this is, as far as I'm concerned, not only the design, but the construction on this is fantastic. And I will say, compared to the other Bestechs that are out there, and they have a bunch and they all seem to be of similar quality, but few seem to be quite as pleasant in terms of the design as this one. And so, I love the ergonomics. I love the blade shape. The action is great. I just really, really enjoy this knife. And so I've been carrying it an awful lot. It's just a great sort of budget-friendly offering. And since we're kind of in that vein, let's pull out a few more. The Manly Peak. This is one, again, that I've been carrying quite a bit. There's been a couple of times recently where I've needed something slim and something that, is not too noticeable. And this is a great option. It's very tough, very durably made, really, really useful blade. And so I've just found this a great knife to throw in my pocket when I want something that is, a little slimmer, a little lighter, but can still get all the work done that I need. Along those lines, and thinking of, smaller knives that I really, really enjoy, this Rake knife, this is the P865. Let me make sure. Maybe it's the 848. It's the P848. Well done, Kevin. This knife is a new model from Rake, and I've already reviewed it, and lots of you have already seen this video. And normally, after I review a knife, I take a bit of a break from it, but I haven't been able to take a break from this one. I just find this design so interesting, and I find this knife so compelling that I often find myself carrying it, especially in situations, again, like where I'm going to carry the Manly Peak here. It's a little smaller, it's a little slimmer, carries super well in pocket, and being a nail nick knife, it you know, is maybe a little less scary to the general public. And so I've been carrying this guy an awful lot. By the way, while I'm saying this, everything here that, you know, you can get on Amazon, I'll make sure that I put Amazon links to down in the description box below, both Amazon.com and Amazon.ca when available. One knife that I really wanted to share with you guys today is the Cold Steel Swift. This is one I reacquired not that long ago. You know, right now you can get these very, very cheap. In fact, Cold Steel sort of cleared them out for like $80 or $85. You know, for some reason, these are not selling super well for Cold Steel. And so I was able to get this fairly reasonably priced, but it's a great knife. And it's one of those knives that really, when I look at it in terms of its function and its overall, you know, comfort in hand and its design and its usefulness, I kind of go, you know, this is a fantastic knife, and I can't believe that there's not more love out there for the Cold Steel Swift. This, of course, is the first gen without the secondary lock, which I definitely prefer. It's also in CTS XHP, and that's something that you're going to see a few people trying to get their hands on. Cold Steel is changing to S35VN, and I mean, you know, it's kind of a toss-up between those two steels, but I definitely like the CTS XHP, especially as Cold Steel's been doing it. And so I don't know, it's sort of like, you know, the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. Thinking of that, I have been carrying quite a lot, as many of you can probably guess based on the video I did about this, the Recon 1. This is the Blades Canada edition in S35VN and satin, and I really, really like this knife in satin. I wish Cold Steel would make that sort of a regular offering, but as it stands, you can only get them from Blades Canada. And if you're interested in that, let me know. You can go back and watch the other video about this knife. I'll put that link in the description box as well, so that you can kind of get the details on this and decide if that's the way that you would want to go. So let's shift gears a little bit, and I'll grab some titanium frame locks that I've been enjoying. I got this guy not that long ago, maybe a couple months ago now. Maybe a little more than that. Anyway, this is the Zero Tolerance 0462. You've probably seen my first impressions on it. If you haven't, you can go and watch that to get a little more info. I will be, you know, I've been carrying this quite a bit for review, and I've got to say I'm pretty impressed with it. You know, I like that this knife is a little bit different. I like that, you know, it's extremely slim. It's extremely lightweight. So you can, you know, you can carry this in pocket and hardly even notice it. But then when you take it out and deploy it, you've got this very large, very substantial knife. And so there are a lot of times where that's useful to me. The other thing I've got to say, guys, is I'll give ZT credit. The look of this knife with the nice clean, you know, no bannering on the blade on the show side whatsoever is really, really cool. Of course, you know, you can get all the detail on the other side of the knife. I wish they would have found some creative way to move that, but that's okay. But yeah, this is a knife that I have been loving and carrying quite a bit. Since we're talking about ZTs, let's kind of stick with the theme here, and we'll get out the 0393. This is a great knife. You know, it fits right into the, what would you say, you know, the standard ZT of today anyway lineup, where, you know, it's a little overbuilt. It's a really nice EDC blade. You know, definitely built on the tougher side of the equation, but not so much that, you know, it's unruly or anything like that. The blade grind is probably a little thicker than I generally, or a little thicker than some people are going to want, but as an EDC knife, I think that's a nice thing to have that extra strength in your pocket. So I got to say, I've been really liking the Zero Tolerance 0393. You know, this is one I would definitely highly recommend because of its versatility. You know, it carries well, it's a useful cutting tool, it's reasonably priced. The only thing I wasn't crazy about is the pocket clip didn't tie well in with the design, I didn't think, so I switched this out for one of the blue Hinderer clips, and I really, really appreciate the way that works. Since we're talking about titanium frame locks and things that are a little more expensive, let's pull out the Kaiser Molnar here. Now, this is a knife I've had just a little while, but it's been in my pocket an awful lot because I find this an extremely useful knife. It carries well, the ergonomics are nice, and the blade is fantastic. And let me say, you know, I know we're not into the review of this, but this has some features that you don't usually see on a Kaiser. It's got those milled out scales, which are trying to save a little bit of weight. It's still a pretty hefty knife. It's also got a great action. The detent on this and the action overall is just about the best I've seen on a Kizer. They seem to have maybe paid a little extra attention to detail on this one, and it is pretty darn impressive. Now, thinking of action and Kizers, I've got one other to share with you that's been in my pocket quite a bit lately, and that is the Kizer Uprising. Again, this knife is a little nicer than a lot of the Kizers I've tried. Now, it doesn't have the internal milling that the Molnar has, but it does have this really nice Wharncliffe style blade with a really nice stonewash on it. That's a very polished stonewash. I like the look of this knife. I like the feel in hand. Now, a couple people have mentioned that it does have this cutout on the lock bar, which gives you a little bit of a sharp edge right there. You can probably knock this down with a little bit of sandpaper if you needed to. For me, just the way this lands in my hand, that sharp edge doesn't touch my fingers anywhere. So it depends on your hand size and your hand shape, I suppose, where that, you know, sharp little corner touches you. But for me, this is a really great fit, and I've been thoroughly enjoying it. Finally, guys, one last knife to share with you, and that is the the Benchmade Crooked River. This is the Crooked River that has been modified by Rogue Blade Works. So here we have the Rogue Blade Works forged carbon fiber scales. You can see those on both sides. The show side looks a little nicer because the pocket clip is not in the way. And look at that forged carbon fiber, absolutely impressive. I've gone to the blue backspacer. If you've watched my previous video about this, I started out with the carbon fiber backspacer. Honestly, I like the pop of color a little bit better than just the all carbon fiber. So that's the one I've been sticking with, and I do tend to like it just a little bit better. I got a couple of messages asking about these backspacers, so I may be interested in selling the original, or not the original, but the carbon fiber backspacer and keeping the blue one. We'll see. I'm not quite there yet. The other thing is it's got this nice carbon fiber clip, and again, the forged carbon fiber pivot collar, which looks awesome. So this is a knife I really liked already. Okay, I had a Crooked River, and I absolutely loved it. I ended up trading it for something, and I can't remember what it was now, but at the time, I kind of knew, you know, this is a knife, yeah, I'm going to trade it now because this is what the guy really wants, but I'll be able to buy another one. And so what happened was when Rogue Blade Works started introducing the replacement parts, the replacement components here for the Crooked River, I actually ordered them without owning a Crooked River. And then I went around on the secondary market and looked around, and I had lots of time. Honestly, Rogue Blade Works was a little slow getting these out the door. So I had lots of time to find a really nice Crooked River in really good shape. And actually it has better action than the original one that they started off with. So I am super happy with this knife, and it gets carried a lot. I just find, you know, the customizations that I've done on here really agree with me, and it's made this knife into something I absolutely love. I will say this: you can now go to Benchmade and customize a Crooked River, and I think that's a great program, but you will pay for it, so kind of be aware of that. Honestly, I feel like most people are going to be happier if they go through Rogue Blade Works. You get more color options, you get more higher end material options, and so that's just my thought on that overall process. There you go, guys. So those are all the knives that have been in my pocket the most often over the last couple of months. And I gotta say, you know, one of the things I really enjoy about being a reviewer is the fact that, you know, I get to check out all this cool stuff, and I really do get a lot of joy from doing that. So thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for sticking around. Check out the Amazon links down below. I will, as I say, put links to any one of these knives that's available on Amazon. I will put links down there below. Plus, most of the other knives that I've reviewed recently, especially if I positively review it, I do add it to my Amazon store. So I'll put that link as well. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon.